Welcome to Snakes and Otters, a pointless discussion of eternal questions. Get ready, we're about to live in your head rent-free. Howdy, this is episode 85.
I am Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis in the captain's chair. A little cowboy lingo there for a moment.
Thought he was going to say in the saddle.
That's right. No, not in the saddle. Could be. But believe it or not, we are back for a Code of Honor episode, guys. You know, it seems like we're always doing these things. We haven't run out of material yet. Of course, that's not possible for us.
No.
We've said from the beginning, put the three of us in the room and give us any subject to talk about, and we'll give you an hour for sure. So, we're going to do a little bit of... you guys okay with me starting off and just jumping right in?
Yes, go for it, Francis. Start us off.
Well, you know, I'm never going first. Well, not never, because we have said, just talked about in show prep, one of these days, I'm actually going to prepare a quotation ahead of time, and you guys have to wing it.
That's right. That's not a problem. And you guys know I'm a movie lover, and I'm going to give you a movie that I know you guys have to know because all guys know this movie, The Godfather.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yes. Don Vito Corleone is the quotation I'm going to give you. Now, the screenplay was written by three guys: Robert Towne, who doesn't get a lot of play. Francis Ford Coppola, of course, the director, and the original author, Mario Puzo.
Yes, that's the author of the novel.
Of the novel, that's correct, yes. So that's...
Who contributed to the screenplay.
Very much so, yeah, exactly. So there was a lot of that going on. It's still one of the great classic movies of all time. I'm a big Godfather #1 fan. Mm-hmm. Not so much of the other two. And believe it or not, a small aside, they're re-releasing Godfather 3 with a recut just recently.
Yes,
I've seen something about it re-released, but I didn't realize it was a new cut.
It's a new cut. The ending changes from what I've been reading. Haven't seen it yet, but I'm not sure what prompted it or why they decided to do it. But you know, the third one has kind of been a meh for most people. They didn't like where it ended up. Pacino himself, he's not going to say anything bad about it, but you know, it just didn't have what it wanted. And this is supposedly an attempt to fix that. The critiques I've been reading is, well, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. But they definitely changed the way it ends. That's for sure. I won't spoil that, but that's a big difference. That was one of the critiques of the first cut. So now there's a second cut of all that. But I'm not quoting from the Godfather 3.
Yes, let's proceed.
We're going to
Godfather 1.
Godfather 1, Vito Corleone. Marlon Brando, my personal favorite. I know the story is really not about him. It's really about Michael Corleone. That's really the whole point. He's the Godfather in the name of the book. But you don't know that going in. You think it's about Vito, his father. And Brando, in many respects, steals the show. Pacino does a fantastic job, of course, given lots of accolades. But Brando's the guy. And this is early in the movie. The movie begins at Vito's daughter's wedding, as you might remember. Mm-hmm. And there is a point, of course, you're introduced to the Godfather when he's being asked to do something not very savory. And Vito goes on and kind of explains why you don't speak to me with respect and things like that. During this time, James Caan, we all love James Caan, fantastic actor, plays Sonny Corleone, the heir apparent.
Another one of those like man's man kind of guys, kind of like Sean Connery.
Yeah.
Yes, very much so. And James Caan, his character Sonny Corleone is a putz. He's an idiot in many ways.
Yeah.
He's the eldest son, and he's a womanizer.
He's a hothead.
Exactly, he's a hothead. Of course, I won't spoil the movie for you, but for God's sakes, if you haven't seen the movie, shame on you because you should. But anyway, there's a moment at his sister's wedding when Sonny is up in the upstairs bedroom diddling around, and that's putting it politely, with
one of the
bridesmaids. That's right, that's just what he did. Well, Vito catches him at it after he comes, and not in the middle of it, but after the fact. And he says a line, and it's a beautiful, beautiful line. I can't say if it's Puzo, I can't say if it's Coppola or whoever, but he chastises Sonny. In fact, Vito chastises Sonny just about through the whole movie for something or other, which kind of illustrates both characters. But Vito says, and here's my quotation, "A man who doesn't spend time with his family can never be a real man." Because Sonny has been off, because Sonny has kids and he's married at this time.
Yes.
And this is a family event.
Yes.
And Sonny is, his kids, who knows where they're at? His wife, who knows where they're at? He's off doing something that a real man shouldn't do. It's not the infidelity so much. The man who doesn't spend time with his family. That, now, take family, ever how you want that to be, in the Sicilian sense.
Yeah, because it has two meanings.
Well, there's the beauty of it. That's why it's written so well, because that means, family means something very specific in the universe of The Godfather. But it also means something very universal. Otherwise, he's really chastising Sonny for not being a father to his children, and not being a son to him, and a brother to his sister Connie, who's getting married this day. And he's bringing shame to the family that means so much to them. I like that. I think that's a powerful statement. A man can never be a real man who doesn't spend time with his family. What do you guys think of that?
Well, that's pretty interesting, because that historically has sort of been the definition of being a man. Is, your function is not just to have the family, but to care for the family.
Absolutely. You don't get to be, spread your sperm and go on. You don't get to be a sperm donor.
Well,
it
historically, of course, as women had very little power, influence, money of their own, whatever, a man who didn't take care of his family financially and emotionally was really thought of as a loser.
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I mean, rightfully so. You're a loser. What are you doing here? You're supposed to be home taking care of your family, and providing for their needs.
Vito was very old school, of course, and very traditionalist in many ways. And in many respects, one of the meta themes of The Godfather is the change from the old ways to the new ways. This doesn't have that ring about it, because it's more complicated than that. This is one of those old ways things that should stay, that should be continued. Ironically, Michael Corleone, in the end, uses family as a cover to do all sorts of things.
There is beard.
Yeah, exactly. That's
not in the traditional sense of beard, but yes.
Yeah. That's exactly what he does, because he tells Connie, not Connie, his sister, but his wife, Kay, at the end, don't ask me about the business, about the family business.
Yeah, don't ask me about my business, Kay.
That's exactly right. So there's a perversion of what his father saw as good. And that's kind of the meta theme here is Vito Corleone is an honorable man and Michael is not.
Well.
But it's, again...
so I will say this, that we just lost every listener under the age of 35.
Come on.
I'll try to bring him back.
No, I'm just saying, I say that not to denigrate your quote, but to point out the difference between our generation and the ones that have come after. Because that quote, while we see it as something
virtuous,
noble and virtuous and something to aspire to, that would be considered very sexist and unwoke by...
Unwoke for a man to provide to spend time.
Because it presumes a patriarchal system where the woman is oppressed. Whether she knows it or not, depending on which feminist you talk to, but it presumes a patriarchal system and a hierarchy within the family.
See, I don't think I see it that way, because I'm thinking that a man is not necessary, but if one is a father...
But that's kind of his point. Again, it's alien to us to not think of it as...
Yes.
Absolutely. Well, of course that's what a man does. If you don't provide for your family, you're a loser. But the woke...
It doesn't necessarily imply that you have to have a family to not be a loser by any means.
No. But to take care of your family, the quote is going to sound like to that kind of thinking that you're the sole provider. Mom stays home, takes care of the kids.
Wow. See, because I didn't think that at all. I'm thinking...
No, because again, you take it differently.
Right,
yeah. Our generation, again, we're the ones that see it. It's not just financial support, but the emotional support.
Well, it's and whatever.
And it doesn't preclude the wife working.
Well, correct, not at all.
Yeah.
In fact,
we don't see it that way.
The mother has her own duties. The father has their own duties. In fact,
and that separation of duties is part of the issue.
Yeah, well, but they're not. But those separations are decided upon by the couple themselves.
You're right. And
It's
in
not
our
imposed.
generation, we see that. We're able to see outside of that old school. We can see the value of that, but we also see that we can make our own decisions, and that the couple, the married couple, is a team.
Well, correct. Exactly.
I think you've said it before too, and Robert, you almost certainly have said it. You fill each other's gaps.
Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
What you're good at, you do, and what the wife is good at, she does, and you're a team of equals.
Marriage in general. Yeah. That's the intention.
It's complementary.
What it's supposed to be.
That's right.
So let me give you an example, though, too, of, again, think beyond financial support.
Of course.
Very meaningful day for me this week. I was able to take Bjorn to the range on Wednesday. That's very meaningful for me because I get to share something I enjoy with one of my sons.
And they eat it up. They want that.
Yeah.
They need that.
Yes, they do. That's what you're talking about.
Exactly.
That's the meaning of the quote then.
Caring for your family is not meant to be just simply paying the bills.
Yeah.
It's in fact that's almost a minor thing.
Telling your wife to shut up and cook.
All right.
No, that's not what we're talking about.
Absolutely not.
Okay,
yeah,
so
because
be extra woke and understand it at a deeper level.
Precisely, that marriage is not a problem. Marriage is in fact the solution.
Again, I'm pointing out, and again, I'm not trying to be contrarian.
I understand.
It's just an observation that
it's a good observation.
Marriage is not even seen as essential anymore.
Oh, yeah.
It's entirely an option and a not very important one.
See, I understand it's not essential, but I think that it's a good.
Well,
it's a
I would
good
argue
thing.
that it is essential.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily required by everybody because not everybody has the temperament to be in a permanent, lifelong relationship.
Correct, yes.
But although I think many who don't probably could if they actually tried.
Yeah, there's some of that.
Like Sonny, he doesn't try. Right?
No, exactly. And there's the issue. He doesn't see it as anything.
He's not subsuming himself into the greater whole.
Yes.
Which is a larger criticism Vito has of him, and sees him not as the heir, because it gets to the point, even after. Okay, I'll say
when they meet with Virgil Sollozzo, and he says, "Never tell anyone outside the family what you're thinking."
That's right.
He has to correct Sonny all the time about everything.
That's correct, and that's why he realizes he's not. He can't run this business.
Yeah. Well, and Sonny's only killed when Vito's on his back.
I was always trying to avoid saying that Sonny gets killed through the movie.
It's 50. I was going to say, you 45 have to do years that. Old, whatever. Yeah,
you've got to do that
because it's not really the end of the film either.
Oh, by no means. In fact, it's Michael cannot ascend if Sonny exists.
Yeah,
I mean that's pretty much put up that way.
So ideally, the quote illustrates what we believe the theological meaning of marriage.
Yeah.
Yes. I'll take it to the eternal question here.
Go.
So, the ideal is the two shall become one. When we talk about it theologically.
That's kind of where I was intending to go with.
But not everybody understands it. Almost nobody understands it. Even in Catholic circles, I don't think better than half. Well, I know better than half understand it because half of Catholics get divorced.
Yeah. So in the same ratio as anybody else.
Right. And so that lack of understanding what marriage and family is, I think, part of the separation from the church. Not just our church, but the churches in the broader sense. And that theological aspect to marriage. Because once you're married, the two shall become one. You then become 3 and 4 and 5 and 92 if you're one of a particular family in my parish. But man, they're always having babies. I love them. How could you not want to spend time with your family? Because you're not wanting to spend time with part of yourself, something that is essentially and mystically and in a very real way part of yourself now.
Yeah. That's why making the right decision on the front end as to who you're marrying is critical.
Exactly.
It's not to be taken lightly.
The theology of marriage is very much, pardon the pun, married, joined to the theology of the Eucharist, where the substance is different. The elements may look the same.
Yeah, there has been a fundamental change has happened. We believe that.
And you are different.
Even the Klingon wedding ceremony is my blood, our blood.
Yeah.
Well, that's correct. Ultimately, that is exactly what has to happen. See, you
I
are
zinged in the Star Trek
You
before
did.
he could do it.
That's exactly right. You beat me to that punch. Yeah, that's.
We've been doing that a lot lately. He's fallen down on the job.
Oh, the pain.
Nice Lost in Space reference.
I thought you might like that. Yeah, because we get that, but I can say that and people will go, "Oh, okay," over the head and all that stuff like that. But you're right. It's an attempt to speak, and I will say this with regards to the divorce rates are going down. Do you know that? In the United
I haven't looked at
States,
statistics like
yeah.
that.
Well, I mean, that's what I do in my
Right.
job, and that actually gives me a great deal of hope. The millennial generation wants no part of divorce.
Well, they're the victims of it.
They're the victims of it.
Well,
Yes,
you just went right to it, didn't you? Exactly right. Either half of them had it happen, or they know somebody that
or they all know somebody that did.
Exactly,
Yeah.
they did. They recognize it's a terrible, bloody business, and they don't want any part of it.
Let me ask you this though, since we segued into it.
Yeah.
Is it that the number of divorces are going down, or is it just that the overall number of marriages has gone down as a percentage of the whole? Therefore, the number of divorce. So, what's the rate?
It hasn't caught up. The declining number of marriages hasn't caught up with the declining number of divorces enough for there to be a causation. There's correlation, of course.
Oh, absolutely.
There's no question.
Because hard numbers are going to affect.
That's correct.
That, yeah.
But percentage-wise, the percentage of marriage, the percentage of
are
divorces,
the trend lines the same?
Yes, they are.
Then correlation is very strong. Then
That's right. It's getting to that point. Again, the numbers are so huge, and they're actually somewhat recent. You've only got about maybe 10 years, not even that, more like 5 or 6. Is where we're starting to see these things happening.
Well, they're delaying marriage a bit as
that's
well.
part of it
Yes.
too. That's yet another critical
You're
element.
seeing fewer and fewer 19 and 20-year-olds get
My
married.
belief
and
is,
more like
except in my parish,
26, 27s.
my belief is that's related. That's anecdotal, but that's because of what I do. My belief is the reason they're doing this is half of them are children of divorce. They don't want to make the same mistakes their parents made.
Yes,
and
they're waiting.
They're waiting. They're being much more deliberate in their choicing, and that's not a bad thing.
No.
Well, I mean, we could go on a huge. I mean, that could be an entirely.
That's completely another episode.
When we talk about a culture episode, we don't have to do pop culture entertainment. We could do one on things like marriage if we really wanted to.
Absolutely.
Because we've talked about expanding our different categories. Some,
absolutely, yeah.
That might be something to think about. So.
Thank you.
Interesting.
Meet there, yeah.
That's right.
Interesting.
I did not get to imitate Marlon Brando very well. I'm not that good at it.
It's hard to do a good Brando, though.
It is, because he's so good at what he does.
From that film,
it's
especially hard because he's doing an impression of someone else almost.
Oh yeah,
that's not him.
He actually put cotton balls in his nose and in his cheeks at some point, and he also was using a teleprompter. So that's why, and because he didn't want to learn his lines. That's Brando for you at this point. And so I got this almost semi-divine detachment as he looks off to the screen and gives his lines, which creates the persona of Vito that much more.
Yeah.
It actually worked for him in this case. It could have worked terribly, but for anybody other than Brando, you could have even noticed it.
Yeah.
But, when have I ever refused an accommodation? Come on.
Yeah, because the Brando in that is different from Brando of On the Waterfront.
Or Brando from Mutiny on the Bounty.
Yeah.
Which shows the man's amazing range.
Those Brandos you can kind of imitate, but Vito's a challenge to sound like.
Indeed, he is. All right.
Well, speaking of challenges, Robert, I think we may have gotten you on this one.
Really?
Because he's talking about families and marriage and unions, and I'm going back to individualism. So you're going to have a tough time here. I've gone back to the Nietzsche
Challenge accepted.
Excellent.
Very good, sir.
So I've gone back to the Nietzsche well on one that I just came across. Again, this is not one that had stash like my others.
The Nietzsche well. I'm liking that turn of phrase.
Yeah.
That's really good. He keeps fountaining, exploding in our lexicon a lot.
So this is a Thus Spake Zarathustra.
Ooh.
Okay, one of his later works. You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star.
Ooh. Good Lord.
You must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. So that is one of these existentialism tenets of, you've got to take risk. You've got to exercise your freedom, or you're going to destroy your ability to think critically. So
really?
The artistic process, the intellectual process, that's the chaos.
Right.
What you do with it then, ultimately, is the dancing star.
Sure,
the creation.
Well, yeah, okay, yeah, the output. The dancing star is the output, but the raw materials are from chaos, which is very cosmological, actually.
So the raw materials, the chaos, that's the inspiration. The execution is the perspiration, so to speak.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, there's we touched on this with our Robin Williams episode. Sometimes the most creative amongst us are also the most, dare I say, chaotic.
Yeah.
Tortured.
Yes.
The really good ones, and Brando's not a bad example because his family life was disastrous, and he tried. I mean, there's plenty of evidence that he tried all over the place, but he was just wasn't something. He tried to be a good father, but wasn't. And you can see others. Robin Williams is a great example of it too. That the caged energy, that chaotic energy that he had with him, made him an enormously talented, creative force. But it ultimately was not sustainable. Yeah. It was not the norm. And I hate to use the word like normative.
Yeah.
But you almost have to be a little bit off to do creative things. Vincent Van Gogh is a great example too. We did the episode on him. It was his brokenness that enabled him to be creative.
Yeah. Yeah. And so it ties to so much of what we talk about. You think about he's writing this in the 1880s or something.
Yeah.
And then you think about all of those revered features in pop culture who burned out so quickly or met these tragic ends, like a Robin Williams.
Janis Joplin. I mean, we could talk about a few others.
Right. So you
it's just one that popped in my head.
Chaos, that churning of the creative juice inside you,
It's essential for good output.
Yep. And it's very individual. Your chaos is your own chaos.
Right.
And I've always said, too, that I figure there's two kinds of people in the world. There's those who can understand and embrace chaos, not necessarily having a disordered life.
Right.
But understand that chaos is a part of the universe.
It's energy generative.
Yeah. And those who must have everything ordered. You must do everything the way I do it. That's the only possible order that things can be in. And
creativity lives in the chaos.
Yeah. And we're in one of those moments of you must do things the way I'm saying to do them. You must follow the rules. But my chaos won't let me wear a mask and follow the rules. What do we do? So you've got to be able to, even if the chaos.
Not to say you don't wear a mask, because you do.
Yes, I'm very good at doing the mask and following my instructions, but I'm also comfortable with the notion of the chaos, of understanding that it's out there, we can live with it, everything's going to be okay.
So every human person has some mix of order and chaos within them.
Not necessarily.
But if you've
got to be conscious of the notion that chaos is going to exist in the universe,
right,
and you can't do anything about it, and then take the next leap, nor should you.
I would disagree with you on the not necessarily.
It's just a question of ratio.
Yeah, I think some people are fantastic, absolutely superb at totally suppressing any spark of creativity they may have.
And that would
yes.
See,
yes, that's what I mean.
It is being suppressed. It's not that it doesn't exist, because when I said
you've turned off the chaos within you.
Yeah, when I said earlier the part about the chaos being the inspiration, I used that word very deliberately, because inspiration When you talk about something being inspired, when you go back to the talking about biblical roots, that is God breathed. You know,
Yes.
that is the Spirit moving over the waters in Genesis is related to the word we use for inspire
and in
and
Hebrew,
inspiration.
that's intended to be life-giving.
And
at
it
the
is
same
life-giving.
time. That's how it's.
Yes.
how
And
it's
so
written.
inspiration, I think it's an
Yes.
essential part. That chaos is an essential part of us. Because I would even argue that those people that do not express their creativity, they are tacitly acknowledging the chaos around them, and they just submit to it. They have totally surrendered to it. Because it's one thing to say, all right, I recognize there's chaos around me, and that and I accept that, and I'm just going to work my way through the chaos that comes to me. That's entirely different than I recognize everything is chaotic and I can't do anything about it, therefore I shall do nothing.
Yeah.
Which I think is the
Yeah.
quiet desperation of a life that far too many live.
Yeah. Well, I think you in rethinking it, I think you're onto something there as well. But I'm sure that you guys, in your experience as well, the person that I'm thinking of is, I think, would normally be described as a martinet. That person who
has to follow the rules
The
and
rules.
cannot do it any other way.
yeah, and doesn't even try to understand if a rule exists for a reason. And again, that person who you must do things my way. You know,
Well, but those are two different types of things, though. One is dictating how it must be, and the other is receiving that which has been told to them.
But in my experience, I find that it's kind of that they're a funnel. Whatever they get told or whatever they experience, then they must project that onto others.
Okay. See, I think that would, and this is not saying you're mired in the mid-level bureaucracy, but to me,
That would be efficient for that.
it would.
Yes.
Because I find that those who are the originators of this is what you must do are not also following that. They tend to be the ones that say, well, I make the rules, I don't have to follow them.
Yes.
Well, sometimes
So and there's a huge difference between
there's some of that, but I would go because that
politically and socially. I think that's
because that's kind of got a sinister bent to it, and I don't think it's always that. I think
I don't think
sometimes
it's necessarily always sinister. I just think it's people who like to set the rules are, in my experience, often think they are above the rules that are set.
which to me that is a sinister thing. I would,
Well,
but
not intentionally necessarily.
well,
is my
perhaps.
point.
Well,
But
yeah.
it is a way of setting yourself apart from others.
Absolutely.
Well, that's correct.
And
but
not subsuming yourself.
that is not great
into a
leadership.
social.
That's a functional leadership, but great leadership to me would be somebody that says, "Here's how it should be done. Here's why it should be done."
Yes.
And there are exceptions to this depending on circumstances that we can work through. I may be an exception sometimes, but not always.
I think
You
that's,
may be an
that's the
exception
big
sometime.
key of what Rob was talking
There's
about.
an
is,
adaptiveness
don't
that
see
is
yourself-
missing in that.
yeah, don't see yourself
That's
as
proscribed at all levels. You will do it this way because I say so, but I don't have to. That's prescription all the way through.
Here's $600,
Adaptation is
but
different.
I have two $25,000 refrigerators in my house. But here's $600.
Wow, you did.
Yeah.
I
And
didn't
I
expect
put
it.
designer ice cream in the freezer of one of them.
Yes.
My goodness, you just went,
but
Nailed it.
But that's the thing that everybody's feeling right now.
Right,
Is
there's
so much evidence of these rules being put on us
that are not
being followed by those who put the rules on us.
That's right.
Right.
I mean,
And that's been true for a long time.
yeah.
You know, it's a lot more in people's face right now because it's never been, and maybe not never, but it's so rarely such an explicit, these are the rules that you must follow.
Yeah.
It's usually far more subtle than that.
Yeah.
But, in a way, I think that kind of is kind of off topic from the essence of your quote. Let's go back to your quote.
Yes. Go.
No, I mean, let's go back to your
Yeah.
quote. Repeat it.
Oh, you must have chaos within you to give birth to a dancing star. So yes, when I saw this and what hooked me is, again, we've talked about the creative process many times. We've talked about art. That's specifically
craft.
the craft.
We use that a lot.
And the inspiration.
So I
Absolutely,
knew this
yeah.
would appeal to Robert a great deal because it would be right in that Van Gogh, Michelangelo, the chaos within them, birthing those dancing stars.
Birthed is a very good word.
It really is,
It's
especially considering the quote you used.
Oh, hell, have we handed him the connector?
I think it's time to hand him the baton. Oh, before we hand you the baton.
Oh, what are we drinking today?
Yes, let's talk about almost bourbon.
Oh, gentlemen, the pain. Here I went and bought you guys a nice $30 Basil Hayden Dark Rye.
It's good.
It's made in Kentucky, gentlemen, so we're not absenting ourselves from that rule.
Yes.
It is a rye whiskey, though.
And it's
good. Kentucky.
I like it.
It's not from that state, down below us or anywhere else.
That's right.
We have the wonderful darkness to this, and I poured us all a little bit of this beforehand. I never touched mine yet until now.
Oh, I've been sipping mine throughout the entire episode.
Yeah, no,
it's
you guys
almost,
have. Yes.
almost a cola colored.
Hold that up to the light. Let's see.
So.
Oh yeah, that's
it says dark rye. It's definitely dark.
Yeah.
So yeah, kind of a cola colored, but it doesn't taste like bourbon. To me,
it's harsher. That's not the right word.
No.
Stronger.
No, but it's got a different flavor, but it's got good flavor. I hate to say it, there is. Maybe this is just what I associate with whiskey as opposed to bourbon. Even though technically bourbon is called a whiskey, I don't like to call it whiskey. To me, they're separate categories.
Yeah.
But there's almost a hint to me of that medicinal aspect that
Martin hates.
Hates, yeah, and rightly so.
Right.
Now,
Yeah.
I don't think of this as like NyQuil medicinal.
This doesn't have that flavor.
But
me.
I find a hint of it in there, just a very small.
Well, Martin,
hint.
you're the one that's usually sensitive to that, though. You have not.
I did not pick that up from it.
Yeah.
Again, I do feel like it is a different flavor from bourbon. The rye gives a kind of a candy flavor to it almost to me.
Really? I didn't get that.
So
it's got a burn to it that stays in the back of the throat.
It does. That's where I'm picking up the rye flavor.
Exactly.
Like if you ever have rye toast, rye bread.
Yeah.
I'm getting a hint of that kind of flavor in the back.
And it stays with you a while.
Yeah.
It
makes a really good sipping bourbon for that reason. Sipping whiskey, sorry.
Well, yeah, it makes some sense to that. Yeah, it stays with you. Wow. I mean, I just took, a substantial drink, and it's still with me here, at least a minute and a half afterwards, and I'm going to have another one right now.
I'll tell you what.
And you get a nice burn in the stomach, too. You get some heat there.
I'm having mine neat.
Yes, I think that's the difference. My initial one was with ice.
That's correct, yes.
That changes the flavor more than I expected.
Really?
To me, the ice in the rye changes the flavor profile more than ice in bourbon does.
And that's not something you wanted. You didn't know it until you had it.
It doesn't matter. It's good either way, but it does change the profile a bit. Yeah, I mean you're right. Toasty.
It's good. Yeah.
Kind of that ham and Swiss on rye, sort of.
I was thinking pastrami, but that's okay.
Pastrami on rye.
I tell you, oh yeah, you know that. It's right.
Man, that's the king right there.
So
it does give you a little bit of that flavor profile to it.
Yeah,
but no, I'm not getting the medicine. That's good. There you go.
Maybe it's just me. Could be. You never know. I've heard I could be wrong every once in a while.
Your wife
doesn't
told
happen
you that.
much.
Your wife told you that, I'm sure.
Probably my mother-in-law.
Oh, okay. Well, that's of course, we go to the highest authority here. Yeah. But anyway, skip a bit, brother. What's your quote?
Well, no, we've got one other item of business again, because I just wanted to say we're in the Baxter Building again today.
We are.
Recording at the second floor of the Baxter Building for Studio F, and just enjoying ourselves like crazy.
I also want to remind people that we do have swag. We have merch.
We have merch.
That's right.
Snakes and Otters merch.
That's right. We're in the process of making it available on a wider
little
spectrum.
E-commerce, yeah.
But, check out the pictures. It's on the website.
Snakesandotters.com.
That's right. Snakesandotters.com. And, catch the content, too. But you'll see pictures of the very nice hoodie. Great design. Worked excellently. Martin, we have you to thank for that.
Indeed.
Send an email or leave a comment. And if you want one, we'll see about hooking you up.
That's
Amen.
right. And as long as you're commenting on things, you might as well leave us a review on Apple Podcasts and everywhere else.
The Spotify
Helps people find us.
wherever we are. Yeah,
That's
we're,
right.
Because we're everywhere, gentlemen.
That's right.
We're on
We are
all
everywhere.
major platforms. That's
We're
right.
everywhere. We
So-
are
so
worldwide.
That's right.
Kind of like Nick Fury.
That's right. Okay, I'm liking that. Little Samuel L. here. That's right.
We're Nick Fury on the way to becoming Thanos. We're not quite inevitable yet, but we're getting there.
We're getting there.
That's right. Nick Fury.
All right.
Nick of Shield.
All right, Robert. Now we'll turn it over to you, brother.
Okay.
Okay,
The
so
hammer. I didn't bring the hammer with me to
that's all right. I bring my own hammer.
to the Baxter Building.
So
Was that a genitals joke? Was
take
that-
it however you
was that a
wish.
penis joke?
Take it however you wish.
Oh, good Lord.
So my quote is actually it's anonymous. I don't have a source for it,
Okay.
but I think that I can make this tie into both of your quotes very well. It's going to more obviously tie into Martin's quote,
Okay.
but I will make
Okay.
it tie into Franny's
The
quote.
hammer has never failed us as of yet. We'll
So-
see.
No masterpiece was ever created by a lazy artist. So I love this. Having majored in art, I know what goes into creating even bad works of art.
Mm-hmm.
I have far more experience with creating bad works of art than I do masterpieces, unfortunately. But you cannot create and be lazy, not if you're truly going to do it. You can half-ass something all day long, but you've not really created anything at that point, whether it's art or anything else. So, Martin, you talked about inspiration is found in the chaos, and the way I phrased it was the order is in the perspiration, the execution of that.
Yes, the determination to get it accomplished.
Right. And that, by its very definition, implies, the artist, the creator, is not lazy. Because it implies something... Not every masterpiece is actually finished. Michelangelo had several what are considered masterpieces today.
Yeah.
They were unfinished works. Partially that's because he couldn't see.
Yeah.
But they have a raw energy in their unfinishedness that they are complete enough.
Yeah.
But that lazy artist, to me, that's the part, that and the masterpiece, because the one implies that it is really good, beyond just, that's nice, pretty picture, to something great. And it does take work. But that also implies that, because the masterpiece part, as well as not being lazy about it, implies that there is great inspiration. It takes great inspiration to create a masterpiece. In other words, it needs a lot of chaos as the source. Because great art, I think, does pull from a lot of different things. And whether it's painting, sculpture, music, writing.
Writing was where I was going to go with that, yeah.
Or any other kind of masterpiece. Because I don't limit this to just art. Okay? Or music.
No, well,
I-
art in the broadest sense of the term.
I think a masterpiece can be a lot of different things.
Hey, a well-executed IT project.
Can very well be a masterpiece.
Yeah.
Absolutely. And to tie this back to Franny, family is the ultimate masterpiece.
Well, yes, I was absolutely.
Right? And you cannot be lazy in your family.
Well, you must not be. Otherwise, it's not a masterpiece.
That's what I was
Yeah.
Well, it's a
stealing
huge
my
failure.
thunder.
A huge failure.
Sorry.
Yeah.
You kind of moved your hand over to me like you're saying, okay,
Well, it's because I was looking at you while I was
Take
talking.
it-
I didn't
take
want
it,
to just look
Francis.
at Martin the entire time. Look at him.
yeah, that's right.
Sorry.
Oh, dude,
sorry.
that's harsh.
Sorry.
That's all right.
Because you took your
Yeah,
swag
it was
off.
there. It was
I
there.
forgive you, my son.
So, if you want to create a masterpiece of a family, which to me implies that you have, well-rounded people in it, presumably mother, father, sons, daughters, whatever. A lot of work goes into that. As husbands and fathers, we all know that. Mm-hmm. It is not easy to be married or have children.
No.
And it's doubly difficult, if not more so, to do both at the same time.
And do it well. I mean, it can be done. It can be done like
And
crap.
anybody can do it like crap.
Absolutely.
Because it doesn't take any effort to do it like crap. It
Right.
takes a lot of work. And to liken this back to what we talked about earlier, creation is an act of the divine. We can only imitate and use that spark of the divine within us to create. That's how God allows us to participate in creation,
co-creation
with Him.
at best.
And it is when we participate in it, and when we use that spark of the divine to take that, what looks like chaos to us, because we can't understand everything. Great art, great masterpieces is our way of making sense out of what is not fully knowable. I mean, talking about it theologically.
Ooh. The Omega molecule to go to Star Trek.
Yeah, there you go.
There.
Yeah.
Yeah. See, you're wondering if I was going to figure out a way to do this.
So, if that is our way of making sense out of what is not fully knowable, the masterpiece, especially art and music and so forth, because it is far more participatory, let us say, by others, as far as a broader number of people, as opposed to our family. Mm-hmm. Our family, obviously, there's participation in that by a broad number of people, but it's related by blood or by adoption or by
marriage.
Close familial or
like
close personal relationships. You guys are family, but you're not blood.
Right.
So I mean, it's
Right.
So all of this to me, it's not the same, but we're talking about the same kind of stuff. The masterpiece that is the family, that is our participation in God's work in creation, our relationships with one another, mirroring the relationship of the Father, Son, and Holy Spirit, all of that stuff. To me, you cannot separate any of this.
Because there's a key component in those relationships, too, that makes marriage work, but is also a reflection of divine, is equality.
Yes.
There's an equality to the relationships, and that's what makes them a masterpiece.
Mm-hmm. There's a quality, there's a uniqueness, but there's also a blending.
Not sameness. Yeah.
And that's true in art and music and what we think of traditionally creative aspects. Mm-hmm. It's true in children. There's a uniqueness, but it is oh so much a blending.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And again, you can fail your children, you can fail your spouse, you can fail your extended family, your friends, you can fail society at large only by being, not only, but essentially by being a lazy artist. Because you're falling down on your job.
In other words, effort itself will get you there.
Not just effort, well-directed effort.
I understand,
because I think that's the bringing order
out
of the chaos.
Because chaos doesn't stay chaos. It can't.
Well,
but chaos is...
It's ever renewing.
Is the natural starting point.
Correct.
It's the... To Nietzsche, that's, that individuality, that seeing things differently than others, that chaos is the starting point to reason and creativity. Because not a Nietzsche scholar, as much as we've talked about him, but I don't think he separates reason, intellect, from creativity. To him, they're the same animal.
That would be that sounds right on there. We do a disservice to try and separate those things out anyway. He's very uniquely fully human. Nietzsche's approach is it's holistic.
That's what he's striving for.
That's what he's striving. Yeah, because he's right, because it is complicated, as Trevor Slattery would say. That you got to have all these things, but chaos, it sounds to me like, is the fuel.
Chaos, and Martin, you're going to love this, is free will.
Yep.
Yeah. Because it could be, it is nothing, and yet could be anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because it is impossible for us, this is where I was talking about the unknowable, making sense out of the unknowable. Mm-hmm. It is impossible for the human mind and intellect to wrap our brains around all of the possibilities.
That's right. We're not
it's impossible.
We're not omniscient.
We can predict with a fair amount of certainty certain things, but we cannot predict on the second to second. We cannot predict even large scale things accurately all the time. Heck, we can't even predict the weather correctly yet.
Right.
And free will, when it comes to the human person, that's where the chaos comes in, because you never know what somebody else is going to do.
Yeah.
Well, Harry Seldon tried that, but it didn't work out that well.
True.
That's right.
There's always a mule that comes along
That's
and messes things up.
Folks, that's a reference to Isaac Asimov's fantastic trilogy, and I kind of stopped
Yes,
at the
the
trilogy.
Fantastic trilogy. Yes,
Yes, fantastic. The Foundation trilogy. I still kind of count the first three as the real stuff. The others were interesting side.
The fourth was good, but the fifth sucked.
Yeah, well, that's... but the fifth was a direct pull from the fourth.
True.
So, and then there's the prequels. Nothing wrong with them, folks.
Actually, I kind of enjoyed the prequels.
They were okay. I did enjoy the fifth one, Foundation Earth. I kind of liked how he tied other things with it.
Oh, see, that's the one I hated the most.
Well, I know, exactly. We've had this discussion many times. But the first three are solid.
They are.
They are
solid.
They are. You can get them. In fact, I just, for my dear son, for Christmas, I gave him a leather-bound copy of the first three.
Oh,
that
very
I was
nice.
able to find. I even inscribed it on the inside. It's
Excellent.
worth your time spending time with the Foundation works. It's Asimov's pinnacle in many respects. His humor comes through. His brilliance comes through. It's just, it's worth your time. And they're actually easy reads.
And it's good, solid
There's
writing.
creativity for you.
Because it is, it's been a long time since I've read it, but it's indicative of the writing of the 50s, in the sense that if it's not essential to be there, it's not.
That's true. That's kind of a Hemingway holdover, too.
Well, this is also partially because a good portion of this was serialized at first.
That's right. I'd forgotten about that.
So
that's right, yeah.
That lends it to it. But anyways, back to...
Well, that's kind of what I was going to go with is, writing in particular is a unique expression of art that you can't lazily do that well. But people try to do it lazily all the time.
Yes.
Most people don't sit down at an easel and decide that they're going to paint. But there's millions of people that sit down and think they can write.
Well, people have told modern society, decades probably, maybe even centuries, that everybody has a book in them. It's like,
No, not so
maybe,
much.
but doesn't mean I want to read it.
Well, that's kind of what I'm thinking. And for those listeners, I'm working on a novel, and Robert, you are too. You're working on several, if I'm not mistaken.
Well, I've only got one in process, but I'm fleshing out ideas for the
and I
second
have
one.
4 sequels in mind for mine. And one of the things that I've done in the last year is I have studied the craft in intense form, and I think you've done a little bit more of that too. You've done it longer, but it astounds me that it's not that hard, but there is a lot of work that has to be done. To go with what you say, you can't lazily write a good book.
Well, there are exceptions to that rule, but even he doesn't do it lazily, in the sense that, because I think he's got an incredibly ordered mind, and that's Stephen King.
Stephen King, yeah.
He is the ultimate pantser, meaning
He can
comes
sit
up
down
with an idea.
Yeah, that's how he works. But he's got talent to fill in that.
Well,
and he's learned his craft too.
He oh yes
Yes,
if you read his books in the order they were written, not that you have to, but I'm just saying as far as craft goes, you can see the progression over years.
Right. And his book on writing, which I recommend anybody that wants to write.
Oh yeah, it's phenomenal.
It's short. You should read it. It's kind of a quasi biography, but it tells you if you're not doing those things, you're not even, you are lazy.
Yeah. I do disagree with him on certain things. Like he says Google him on YouTube, there's a bunch of videos. And he talks about how the notebook is the tool of the untalented writer or something like that. Because some writers real big on everything, every idea, write it down.
Right.
He writes nothing down except what he's writing.
Right.
He's that genius level,
Well,
Robin Williams
it's
kind of
talent. He's got
writer.
a notebook. It's in his head, for goodness sakes.
Exactly.
And if you've got that talent, God bless you. Some people can do that.
Yeah.
Others absolutely can't.
Now, it is. You made a comment earlier that it is so easy. It's easy to put words on the paper for some people. Others know it's absolutely impossible.
Well, sure.
But the first draft, which is always the worst,
Yeah,
it's
by definition.
Most artists will tell, or most writers will tell you, the first draft is always shit. Even Stephen King will tell you, take the first draft, and the first thing you do is cut 10% of it.
Yeah. Among many other things.
Among many other things, yeah. But again, it goes back to the do it well.
Exactly. That's you have nailed it exactly. I spend a lot of time on Quora and there are people that are constantly querying questions about writing. And one of my, and I've never met her. She's written 137 books. Mercedes Lackey.
Oh yeah.
I know you've read her. She's fantastic, and she is so blunt. And so many times they'll say, well, I need to make $800,000. This is one of the questions I read recently. And I'm going to do that by writing. How do I do that? And she puts up, of course, the meme of the seal laughing, like, oh, really?
Yeah.
And occasionally we'll get the one, I like to use the one from Game of Thrones, oh, my sweet summer child, what do you know about fear? Because that there's an amazing level of ignorance that's wrapped in hubris about writing. Thinking that anybody can write, because it's easy to publish, if you wanted to self-publish now. And
which is actually a phenomenal thing.
It is.
Self-publishing is the Gutenberg press.
Sure.
I mean, that's the game changer that it is.
Right. The problem being is 99% of the stuff that gets published is often
crap.
Well,
I tell you what.
Because they're lazy.
Well, I think it's less that they're lazy so much as they didn't have anyone to help them learn the craft.
That's right.
Because I read a ton of fiction on my phone all the time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And one of the things that sets apart good fiction from, and I mean just good, not great. Just good.
Good, serviceable, solid, entertaining, readable.
Is that they took the time to actually edit the damn thing.
Well, that's it. That's exactly right.
And by edit, I don't mean just... use the same name for this character throughout, which I have seen not done.
God, yeah. Grammar, punctuation.
The grammar and punctuation is inexcusable in this day and age.
Well, that's correct. Word does it for you, most of it.
Well, and you can get Pro Writing Aid, Grammarly, these other tools
There's plenty of other
that
stuff
do it even better than Word will.
Yeah.
But just taking the time to do a little bit of editing to make sure you're consistent. Again, it's the time.
Yeah. Shouldn't you love your creation? We didn't talk about that, but if those that create, it is meant to be, creative process is a process of love.
Oh, absolutely.
It's not a dancing star otherwise.
Well, that's exactly right. So therefore, if you as creator, you should love your creation so much that you're willing to do whatever it takes for that creation to succeed. That's where Frankenstein falls off the rails, because Dr. Frankenstein did not love his creation once he did so.
Bing, 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 bing here. Yep. I will segue more into the eternal questions.
There we go. All
right.
Happy to set that one up, sir. Pitch the ball across
the plate.
Off.
So what you just said describes not just the essential realities of human relationships, but back to marriage.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Because you should love your creation, which broadly defined here, we're talking about family, spouse, children.
That's correct.
And in a broader term, relationships with those around you.
Because you created your spouse through the act of marriage. You created your children through the act of procreation, which stems from marriage.
And you've created your life.
Well, that's correct. With all of that.
Right.
That was
and
a deliberate
you should be
choice.
willing to do whatever it takes.
Uh-huh.
You should be willing to die for your creation.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, some people, unfortunately, like Robin Williams, kind of did. Now, he didn't do it specifically for his creation, but it's kind of as a result of his state because he was so creative. But, it's a limp analogy, or a lame analogy, so it kind of limps. But you guys understand what I mean.
Yeah.
But if you're willing to die for it, has meaning. Nobody's willing to die for the stick figure painting, right? Or drawing. But would you die to save the Mona Lisa? Maybe. Or Michelangelo's David, or his Pietà. There's a difference of quality between a masterpiece and a stick figure.
Well, because a masterpiece everyone recognizes.
Yes. There's inherent beauty in a masterpiece.
Or significant number, we'll say.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always
there's always
a critical mass worth of
Yeah.
people. Yeah. In order for the star to dance, you've got to have a critical mass of people that agree it's that.
Yes. Well, so there's inherent beauty in the masterpiece, whether that is
that's it.
The family, the book, the poem, the painting, the sculpture.
That's right. Even with its flaws. because
Yeah,
they all have
yes.
them.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not excluding that.
And in beauty, there is truth. The church talks about this.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
If it is beautiful, there is an inherent truth. This gets back to the chaos is inspired. It is that spark of the divine. And that, these things to me, they're, again, I'm really, you guys know this, I'm the connection guy.
Yeah.
And that's part of being the hammer, is bringing all this stuff together.
Yeah.
That spark of the divine, that being willing to die for it, it's because you want the best for whomever.
Oh.
That is love. Wanting the best, the greatest for the other is love. It's not romance.
Absolutely. And I can tell you, to use Michelangelo as the model for this, that is best exemplified in the creation of Adam, the divine touching the finger of the listless Adam. That is, the chaos is betwixt them. God gifting the chaos to Adam.
Adam is the lazy artist before God touches the finger.
Exactly. Daggone, we're good, boys.
Wow.
To bump
All right, so we
daddies.
took a screenplay
Yes.
and Nietzsche, and Robert hammered it all together, and we
Into
came
a
all the way
masterpiece.
back to in beauty there is truth. So, a religious precept, something that Nietzsche would also have argued for, despite being unreligious.
Yes, that's right. Yeah, he recognizes the universal truth there.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't matter how you work with it,
Excellent.
but it exists.
Excellent stuff.
Dang, another fantastic. There's a reason people love these episodes the best, I think, and I think
I'd like, if we did this every week, I'd be happy too.
we could. It's not like we're ever going to run out of ideas. That's for sure.
I enjoy this.
I like the
I do too.
I love the variety.
I like
Every
bouncing
one
from
that
thing
we
to thing.
have.
It's chaotic to bounce from thing to thing,
Right?
And I'm embracing the chaos.
Yeah.
Well, and that gives, honestly, it's what makes this its own form of art.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because it is creative, and it does spark creativity.
It's our
because
creative outlet.
the chaos, one of the reasons that's the spark, the divine spark for the creativity,
Yeah.
it's because that's where you draw from so many sources. Nobody creates something new without being inspired by something prior.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And that's
Yeah.
the chaos.
You-
That's all the different
something
factors that are
something
affecting
inspires
us.
In fact, it's probably infinite inspiration.
Yeah.
To make a masterpiece, it almost requires that, because you're constantly being inspired. And as writing the novel, I get inspired from all sorts of things, and you'll never know where it's going to come from. We talked about on the way back from lunch. We talked about how you hate American cheese, and that's going to figure into my novel. I figured out a way. Seriously, I figured out a way, because one of the characters is going to say American food is crap because he's Russian. Oh, and all of a sudden I'm thinking, he's going to hate American cheese just because of what you just said. See,
You go from caviar to American cheese.
Well, no,
to illustrate the difference between Russian cuisine and
not really
American.
that. I mean, he's a Soviet. Don't get. I'm not going to go into the book. It's only about a third of the way written. I do have my first draft 1/3 of the way written, though.
All right.
Excellent.
So
Excellent.
that's
How many
all right.
words into it are you?
50,000.
Excellent.
Yeah, it's going to
long.
it's probably going to, the first draft's going to be long. If it's 130,000, that's a little high, but that's okay. That's where I expect it to end. And you guys will be helping me, I'm sure. When if you want, I can even give you the first third if you want to read it.
No.
You want
wait till you're ready.
You want the complete full Monty.
And and like I think I've said this before, maybe not on
air?
on the podcast on air. I'm okay with waiting till the second or third draft, because the first draft,
Well,
some writers will tell you, writers will tell you that nobody but the writer should ever read the first draft.
There you go.
Well, there's some developmental things though that I want some weigh in on. That's the
Sure.
reason for that.
Right.
Is that way to kind of make sure that all this works, and that's and I'm not going to hire
Yeah,
developmental.
you're actually about the same. I'm about 50,000 words into mine.
Well, that's right. Yeah, exactly. And
So you've done quite a bit.
I have. I've worked 13 chapters into it, and it's at the end of the first act in the 3-act structure. It's a little longer than I expected it to be. The second act, things ramp up a lot. And there's not going to be a soggy middle in this one. So this is going to be this heavy stuff.
All right. That's pretty good stuff. That's yeah. But we're at the 1 hour mark. So, Francis, what is next time?
Heroes. We go back to Heroes. This is one we've been talking about doing for a while, but we wanted to make sure we arranged it to drop in January, because we're going to talk about the man behind the civil rights movement. We're going to talk about Martin Luther King Jr., Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and oh my God, so much that we owe him, so much that he fought for, flawed though he was. But that's, in many respects, that's what a good hero is. A hero is a hero despite their flaws, not because of them. But they always have them. And this man here was a giant in so many ways. And we're going to go deep as best we can in an hour with him to celebrate his birthday in January.
Hope you enjoyed another pointless discussion of eternal questions. Remember, new episodes published every Friday at noon Eastern.
Spread the word. We're on all the major podcast platforms. And leave us a comment or review because that helps others find us.
We're on Instagram, Twitter, as well as our website, snakesandotters.com.
I'm Martin.
And I'm Robert.
And I'm Francis. Join us next week. Same snake time, same otter channel.